Hello, hello. Welcome to my channel. My name is Emmie from Emmie Evolving. If this is your first time joining me, thank you for finding me. If this is not your first time, thank you for coming back. So, I'm going to be doing a reading for Pisces, Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus. Also for your cross watchers, also for those of us who find ourselves on this channel without any Piscean anything. You're probably an empath and you probably need messages from your soul. So, let's get started. I asked the energies what this reading was going to be about, and what I heard was playing along to keep the peace creates an internal war, which is true. It really is true. Playing along to keep the peace literally creates an internal war. So let me just shuffle these cards. One more shuffle. Oh my God. Oh my God. Let me just not. Okay. Hold on. One more shuffle. What deck? Here, this deck. I like this deck. Oops. That there, that there. I'm good. How are you doing? All right. Okay. Let's just pull a couple right there. All right. Let's do this. You want another deck to be pulled from? Okay. Let's pull from my deck. Oops. All right, here goes. There you go. Okay. So, Alchemist, there's something that you're needing to change about the situation, change about your mindset, change about the way you are handling whatever this is that you're needing to handle. Okay. Sometimes we get caught up in this belief that there's only two options, left or right, because those are the only two directions you can go. Wrong. In any given situation, you have at least four options, at least, because there's at least four primary directions: left, right, above, below. So you need to begin exercising discernment in regards to what those options actually are. When you begin to process your life and you begin to process the way your life has played out, people's role in your life, the way people have affected your journey, your processing, your sense of self, your sense of safety and wholeness, then you begin to really understand the ways in which you've given your power away. Empaths, and especially Piscean empaths, we have a tendency to give too much of ourselves to other people. We have a tendency to give too much away. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you're giving products, or you're giving services or any of that. That means we take on other people's struggles far too deeply. You're not being asked to care less, you know what I mean? Because If you're someone who cares about people, you're just going to always be someone who cares about people. If you are someone who is loving, you're just going to always be someone who is loving. You can go through things in life that will cause you to feel like you shouldn't love people and you shouldn't care. But at the end of the day, betraying who you actually are is also going to be giving your power away. You're allowing someone outside of you to dictate to you who to be and how to be. No, no. When we begin to recognize the ways in which we try and maintain peace are the very ways in which we create that internal war, we then are obligated to choose differently. We're then obligated to begin choosing what maintains our sense of self. So, for example, I'm just naturally a giver. I'm just naturally someone who wants to help. Um, and I had to go through things in life to help me understand that, you know, not everyone who asks me for help actually needs help. That's just the reality. Not everyone who thinks they need help, not everyone who asks for help actually needs help. And as I continue to help and give and over help the people who didn't really actually need it, what I was doing was enabling their sense of lack of personal power. In addition to that, I was giving them a sense of entitlement to me, my time, my resources, which no, you're not entitled to any of that. And then on top of that, it created a lot of internal struggle for myself because my notification went off. Our frustration led to this. Yeah, that's what I was about to talk about. It made me feel very, very frustrated and borderline made me feel used. But was I being used or was I not establishing and sustaining these boundaries? And once I identify that, I needed to alchemize this experience, turn it from something that seemed like nothing but negativity, nothing but bad things, something that made me feel badly towards other people, in a general sense. Okay. This is in a general sense at that point. And I needed to turn it into what it actually was, a learning opportunity. Staying quiet does not stop that internal conflict, it amplifies it. Constantly complaining does not stop that internal conflict. It causes you to be so busy communicating things that maybe are not necessarily needing to be communicated. And unfortunately, this is a reality, okay? When you talk too much, people tend to tune you out. If you know someone who's very naggy, like all they do is nag, people tend to tune them out. People tend to be like, "Oh, you're complaining again." Ugh. You know, if you want to be taken seriously, communicate with intention. Communicate when there is something of substance needing to be communicated. Communicate in a very um, clear manner. In a very clear manner. I used to really just mumble my words a lot. And as I began to realize, like, my opinions, they actually carry some sort of gravity. They're still just opinions, but they carry some weight to them because these opinions are based on my life experiences. And so I learned I don't need to speed through what I'm saying. I can slow it down just a little bit and enunciate, make very, very clear what I'm trying to communicate. We have to be clear about what we need. We can't just be like, oh, could you, never mind. And when someone asks you, well, what did you need? No, it's okay because you don't want to be a burden. The burden is in that behavior, not in the need. Can we say that together? The burden is in the behavior, not the need. When we continue to make our needs diminished because we refuse to speak on it, to speak up about it. Speaking on it does not mean you're yelling at people or demanding things or speaking in a very demeaning manner. Communication is not intrinsically bad. It's not intrinsically a burdensome thing for other people. There are people in your life that want to take care of you the way you take care of everyone else. And when you don't allow them to, what ends up happening is they get frustrated. They get frustrated. And then there's some of us who we don't have someone who is willing to listen, who is frustrated because you won't communicate. For some, really no one's listening. Keep talking anyways. Keep making it clear. Okay? Make things so clear that when people try and say, like, well, you didn't tell me. Actually, yes, I did. I told you at this moment this exact thing. You chose to ignore it. I'm going to have to hold you accountable for that. I communicated to you what I needed and you disregarded it. I came across this video last night and it was something super interesting because it kind of helped me to wrap my thoughts around some of the behaviors that I have, the behaviors that I've been working on, and I don't really know how to feel about those things and about myself when I do those things. And excuse me, I got to find it. I saved it, I believe. I believe I did. Okay, here. Um okay. Well, oh here. Oh, none of them have any type of subtitles, Darnia. Darnia. Um, for people who have ADHD, which many of us have varying degrees of ADHD. What is ADHD? A type of neurodivergence. Okay. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a mental health professional. I'm not classically trained or properly trained with a certificate or a degree in mental health. I am a human being that seeks to understand why my brain functions the way it does because I want to know why I function the way I do. I seek information, so much information day in and day out. I'm seeking a deeper understanding of myself and why I function the way I do within my environment, right? And so I came across neurodivergence. It's long since been discussed that I have some pretty pronounced ADHD type traits, along with a few other things. And the video that I came across last night was very, very interesting because it is a medical doctor. She's a medical doctor and she's talking about some of that ADHD type struggle. Um, Let me play this because he's Dr. Shepard, MD. Um,
I'm a doctor with ADHD. Let's talk about one of the most disabling aspects of the disorder. And no, it's actually not impulsivity, hyperactivity, or inattention. It's something called rejection sensitive dysphoria. And studies have actually shown that this can be one of the most problematic aspects of ADHD for those who suffer from it. People with ADHD are more sensitive to any sort of stimulation. So we might notice things in our environment that other people wouldn't even pick up on. And that's part of the reason why we get easily distracted. This sensitivity also extends to our emotional world. So when we feel like we're being rejected or criticized, or when we're falling short of meeting our own expectations or other people's expectations, it's extremely painful. We may even see rejection where there isn't any. This leads to us avoiding situations like making new friends or raising your hand in class or taking risks.
I'm saying, oh my God, I'm not broken. Oh my God. That's why I function the way I do. It's this sensitivity to rejection that might not even be based in the reality of what you're experiencing. My brain started to pulsate. When I heard that last night, it literally started to pulsate. Like, girl, that's some truth. We're drinking it up. We're drinking it up. And that's the reality of what many of us go through, because really, there's a lot of speculation at this point within the medical community itself that ADHD is not a pathology, it's not a disease, it's not a malfunctioning of your brain. It's actually a different type of neurological process. There's neurodivergent and there's neurotypical. People who like to fit inside boxes and be told what to do and comply and really cater to the social norms and the expectations. Those tend to be neurotypical people. Those who think outside of the box, the black sheep, those with chronic mental illness, those with certain types of processing disorders, processing syndromes, um, ADD, ADHD, OCD, um, what is it called? um, Sensory processing disorder. We have those with autism, Asperger's, all sorts of different things. And these are people who tend to think outside of the box. Now, we're not trying to diagnose ourselves with anything. We're trying to understand some of the potential reasons behind why we function the way we do. This is to better understand ourselves and better support and advocate for ourselves. I wonder, if I rephrase this, would it help us to better accept this? Instead of me saying, speaking up for yourself, instead of me saying, speaking your truth, telling us what you need, what if I use the term advocate? We need some advocacy, self advocacy. How does that make you feel when you hear that? Does it now become more of a technical thing that really technically, this is something I need to do? And let's just create some sort of maybe flow chart to give us a process that we should go through, instead of like, well, I don't know, because I don't want to be a bother to other people, and I don't want to this and I don't want to that. When we look at it in terms of self advocacy and having a certain type of flow chart, a certain type of generalized process checklist that we can go through to make sure that we are actually self advocating, you know what I mean? Self advocacy, making sure that we hold people accountable for what's rightfully ours. Dignity, consideration. Hmm? Those are not extreme things, right? It's not extreme things. When we take the emotional concepts, emotional components out of that speaking up for ourselves, which is very stigmatized at this point, is very, very stigmatized. Then we begin going into the technicalities of existence within civilized societies. Self advocacy is a very civilized, educated thing, right? It's the same damn thing, y'all. It is the same thing. And what has been done for those of us who exist within civilized societies, we are made to feel as though we are somehow burdensome when we begin to understand that I am not like you, and that's okay. We don't need to be the same. We can coexist, but I'm going to need you to please at least hear some of the things you need to consider about my needs and my attempt to cater to my needs, to really address what I need. And oftentimes, we're not asking other people to cater to us. What we're doing is asking other people to please recognize my expectation of you is to not interfere with me in my process of tending to myself. Boom. Mm. Tell me where I lied or exaggerated there. Please show me where I exaggerated there, where I went ahead and enabled your insecurities and made you feel like, yes, you are a victim. No, you're not a victim. People are being unfair in their expectation of you. And then they expect you to not have any expectations of them. What? What? Exactly, Kitty Claw. How many get called the B word when they stick up for themselves? I know I've been called that many times, and I tell them, I'm not a bee, I'm the bee. Recognize. Recognize the difference. You're not going to win here. Not today, shaitan. Not today. Ooh, I have an interferer. It's so annoying. They want to micromanage my life and have zero right. Yes. 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 They have zero right to do that. Zero. None. None. So, cleansing. We have to allow ourselves to be cleansed of these perceptions that we have to do what we are told to do. We cannot say anything against the status quo, excuse me, the social norm. We can't go against the official storyline. We cannot this, we cannot that, we cannot. I'm done hearing what I cannot. Let me begin living what I can. Have you made that statement yet? Have you gotten so annoyed, inconvenienced, upset, disappointed that you've made that statement yet? That I'm done hearing the I cannots. Instead, let me start living the I can. Mhm. And when people want to start manhandling the I cans, they can open up a can of whoop ass, is what it is. You know what I'm saying? That's a can of whoop ass right there. That's a can of whoop ass. It's not a can of worms. That's a can of whoop ass. Uh huh. You want a can of whoop ass? You want to open it? You go right ahead. You go right ahead. I have this thing that I've observed through my lifetime, especially in the past couple of years. It's become more pronounced where I recognize that when I don't tell people, oh no, don't open that. I don't tell them that anymore. I'm just like, okay, you want to open that can of whoop ass? Okay. I'm gonna just watch you. And really, honestly, just watch them. Just watch them open that can, and then they're like, whoa, no, no, I didn't want that. Oh, yes, you did. Oh, yes, you did. As a matter of fact, you insisted. That can doesn't have your name on it. You took it out of my personal cupboard and claimed it as yours. Now it's yours. Eat it up. Eat it up. Sip the sauce. Eat it up. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How many of you have experienced this in your life? Where you put that can of whoop ass all the way in the back of the cupboard and someone's been rummaging, absolutely rummaging through your cupboard, pick up that can of whoop ass, and then get mad at you that they opened it. People seem to think that they can go ahead and continue to cross you and trigger you and trigger you and trigger you. And then you have to ask for permission to have a reaction or a response. That's not how it works. When someone works really hard to get a reaction out of you, they don't get to choose what that reaction is. They get to hope. Yeah, absolutely. You get to hope. Okay? You get to hope. But at the end of that interaction, I am the only one that chooses how I will respond and react. I might take your hope into consideration. Might. Emphasis on might. Or I might not. You're just never going to know until you try. Until you try. So then don't try. If you want something that's guaranteed and you're dealing with someone who's a neurodivergent, which is what empaths are, empaths are typically neurodivergent. Yeah. That's why it bothers us when other people hurt. We don't think within that box of separation. We have neurodivergent tendencies, if not full on neurodivergence. Yeah. You can't predict how we'll react. We might react the same way 10 times, but you never know that 11th or 12th time, you might get a different reaction. You really, really might. Different how? I don't know. Depends on the person. Depends how sick they are of dealing with the stuff that you keep serving them up. Given enough rope, they will hang themselves. Yes. But here's the thing. When you give them enough rope, they might whip you with it first. So what I like to believe is bring your own damn rope. My rope is for me. Not to hang myself, but to create boundaries from which I will shackle you to that boundary and never let you in. The moment you begin showing me that you are toxic for me, the closest you will get is the other side of that rope. And if you continue to try and enter, I'm going to handcuff you to that rope and leave you there. My auric field is not an amusement park. It does not exist to entertain you. I want you to say that out loud to yourself. My auric field is not an amusement park. It's not here to entertain you. See, people think that they can go ahead and enter your auric field and treat it like a personal amusement park. Use you to bring them to the highs and the very lows, and it's a wonderful, magical ride full of sweet, sugary things and salty, savory things and all these different rides and story times. No, I'm not an amusement park. I'm not here for that. I'm a sovereign being, and I'm trying to experience my life to the highest and lowest and most ripest degree of growth. And if people can't respect that, they don't need to be a part of it. If people can't take into consideration what I'm communicating, which is typically my need, they don't need to be a part of it. They just don't. And you don't need to explain. You don't need to argue. You don't need to try and force them to understand something that clearly they're incapable of understanding. Not everyone is capable of understanding the very simple concept of sovereignty. Okay? Like, yeah. Yeah. And they'll try and mix you up with that. They really, really will. When you look at maritime law versus natural law, law of the land, when you're asked by an officer or agent of that maritime law, do you understand? Do you know what they're saying to you? Do you stand under my jurisdiction? They're accusing you of an infraction of their maritime law. And then they ask you, do you understand? They're asking if you stand under their jurisdiction because they don't naturally have jurisdiction over you. If you truly claim sovereignty and exist as one, no one has jurisdiction over you. Energetically, when you claim you're a sovereign, but then you allow other people to do whatever they want, you're not a sovereign. When you claim sovereignty, but then you try and tell other people to do what you want, you're not a sovereign. Laws of sovereignty, when it comes to etheric realms, I am the highest authority within my auric field. There is none above me. And because I understand and live by the laws of sovereignty, I see you within your own auric kingdom and realize there is none above you within your kingdom. I cannot tell you what to do. You cannot tell me what to do, but we can have symposium. We can speak together and recognize the needs of the other, and then take into consideration what we will choose to do with this knowing. When you have that, but then the other person only wants you to consider what they need, that's no longer a sovereign thing. That's not. If you're going to keep giving in, if you're going to keep doing what they want because they want it, no, that's not sovereignty. It's really not. Sovereigns don't have to yell and they don't have to fight for people to recognize their sovereignty. You're either a sovereign or you're not. They're either going to recognize it and you be okay with them recognizing it, or they're not going to recognize it and you decide how you're going to feel about that. And based on how you feel about that, what are you going to do? For me personally, as someone who really takes my sovereignty seriously, and by virtue of that seriousness of my sovereignty, I take everyone else's sovereignty very, very seriously as I take my own. If you are unwilling or unable to consider my stance, have a good day. I don't need to waste my time trying to convince you that I deserve dignity and respect. Have a good day. Please see yourself out. Please walk yourself out. I don't even have the time nor the energy to give you that. See yourself out. And that's that. It's not about someone needing to agree with me. If someone does not want to hear, truly hear that I have a need that opposes what their perception is, that's a waste of my time, energy, and effort. I don't need to convince anyone of what I deserve. I simply have to make it known and then accept how they respond to it. Example, I have someone who thinks that I should blah, 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 right? Okay, I have conflict with someone. A third person comes and is trying to make peace. Like, oh, you should just talk to Lou. You should just talk to Lou. You guys should squash it already. I'm sorry, Joe. Lou did something really, really horrendous to me. This is not the first time. This is not the second time. This is not even the third time. This is a regular thing that Lou seems to think is okay with me. And I've already told Lou, I'm not okay with that and you need to stop. And then Lou did it again. So at this point, I'm just going to have to accept that Lou is who Lou is. And they're no longer allowed in my life. And Joe says to me, oh, Emmie, don't be that way. You know, Lou is going through a lot of things. Okay, Joe, have a good day. Whoa. Emmie, it's Joe. It's Joe. I'm Joe. I'm not Lou. Why are you mad at me? Because, Joe, you're trying to justify Lou's continued access to me. And every time Lou accesses me, Lou does the same screwed up things. Now, I've already told you this. If you feel Lou needs some compassion, you can go ahead and give that to Lou yourself, but I need to go. No, wait, no, sorry, gotta go. When you know you hold yourself accountable for everything, and y'all, please, seriously, begin recognizing, like really begin recognizing Most of you who join me regularly, you are consistently worried about being a bad person, about hurting other people, about inconveniencing other people. Bad, inconsiderate people don't worry about those things. They don't spend all this time policing themselves. We just got to stop that. You know what I mean? Because you're constantly questioning if you're a good person, bad person, yada, yada, yada. Do you even really have time to be a bad person? Are you trying to atone for things that were not even done by you? How are you going to atone for a sin that's not yours? You're not. All you're doing is punishing yourself. Why punish yourself? Because someone told you you needed to be punished? What kind of horrible person says that to someone else? What kind of horrible person makes someone else feel that way? That's who you're listening to. That's who you're listening to. Why listen to people like that? That's why a lot of your logic, a lot of your perception takes you that much further into that ugliness that causes you so much hurt, that causes you to feel you're not a good person. I've never had a good person make me feel badly for making a mistake or for acting um, horribly, even for a moment. Never. I've never had a good person do that to me. Or clearly I'm wrong. Clearly I'm needing to apologize because my behavior, I was too aggressive. I was just too headstrong in my decision to like charge forward and be hurtful, be rude. And then later on, I realized, you know what? That was so out of hand. Like, I should not have done that. I should not have taken out my frustrations on you. And I come to apologize. And good people, you know what they say to me? You know what? It's okay. No, I get it. You're going through something. And, like, just thank you for apologizing. Don't be so hard on yourself. That's why I have such an appreciation for you guys, because y'all are good people. Y'all are good people. People who are bad, people who don't take others' needs into consideration, people who are selfish and toxic, they can't stand me. I don't care. They can't stand me. They don't watch me. Why? Why? I'm too truthful. They feel like I'm attacking them. It's a general reading. I don't know who's here. It's a general public reading. I don't know who's here. How am I attacking if I don't know you're here? Right. It's because you're self identifying as what I'm talking about, and it's pissing them off. And so they don't stick around. Good. Come back only when you're ready to grow. Good. Good. So for those of you who are consistently here all the effing time, please just accept. Just accept. You're a good person. And just because your environment lacks the capacity, maturity, and evolution to properly identify you as a good person does not take away from the fact that you are. It doesn't. If I can be as ballsy as I am with all the things that I say and the shit that I talk, please understand, I'm not feeding you a line right now. I'm just actually stating the truth. Like attracts like. When you come and you are so drawn to me and you resonate with me so much, it's because we're the same type of person. When you come and you quietly watch and you're like, oh, I can't stand this bee, that's because you're not like me. And you're watching so you can try and harvest information to use against the person in your life that's just like me. It's not going to work anymore. It's not going to work anymore, because whether or not they watch me, humanity is evolving to the degree that your BS is being phased out. Adapt or go extinct. Those are your only options. Adapt or go extinct. Your matrix is being shut down. Those are the only options you have. Adapt to a more cohesive, more compassionate, more cognitively present way of being, or be phased out. Because people like me, people like us, we're not going to tolerate much more. We're not. And just because all people have seen from you is you being nice, you being accommodating, does does not mean that you're not capable of actually sticking up for yourself, speaking up in all of these other things, okay? Begin exercising your voice. If what you need to do is first practice what you say in front of a mirror to make yourself more comfortable, then do it. You don't got to tell anyone else that that's what you're doing. You don't. Whatever you need to do to become comfortable with experiencing how powerful you actually are inside, start doing that. Start doing that quietly by yourself. Get really comfortable using that power. And I have a feeling you're not going to use that power to dominate anyone else. That all you really want to do is get people in your environment to understand that you don't deserve to be treated the way you are. What's bad about that? Because I can feel someone like, I can't believe she's encouraging people to do this. What? You can't believe I'm encouraging people to be harder for you to control and bully? Believe it. Believe it. Because I'm doing it. Every single video, that's what I do. You must be new here. Every single video, that's what I do. And just to give you the gravity, let me look. Let me be accurate. Hold up. La la la. La la la. Oh, 1.8 million views. Over 1.8. I'm approaching 1.9 million times. I've been witness doing this. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to be intimidated either. I literally have nothing to lose. Nothing. And I have my dignity and my proper place within society to gain. And you might wonder, what's my proper place within society? My proper place? No, it's not on a pedestal. I serve as the foundation from which everyone else will rise. And I fucking love it. I'm behind every single person you want to shut up, gently whispering in their ear, you don't need to take that shit. Say something. Put them in their place and say something. Let them know they don't have that kind of power over you anymore. Don't worry, I got your back. No, you're not wrong for understanding what you need now. No, you're not wrong for growing beyond their reach. Say it. Speak up. People need you to play whatever role they tell you to play. I don't care. Someone's like, no, that's not true. She don't have, okay. If you go to my channel, you go to my channel, the Emmie Evolving channel, click on the About button. I don't have to lie. That's not a flex. That's just a declaration of fact. That's me being rebellious to whoever it is that's like, ain't no one listens to you. That's fine. But I actually have factual, analytic evidence that me being ballsy like this has been witnessed at least 1.8 million times. What am I trying to say with that? That means I'm not ashamed who sees this. I don't give a shit if people see me in my most authentic state. I've exited out of that program that tells me I should be ashamed if people witness me being ballsy. That's what that means. In the grand scheme of things, if we really want to compare, those numbers are nothing compared to other channels. But I'm not comparing to other channels. I'm not comparing to anyone. I'm making a declaration that I'm no longer afraid to be witnessed. You don't have to be afraid to be witnessed either. And no one needs to keep count. You don't do these things and say these things because you want to keep count of who's witnessing. Like, I haven't even looked at that. This is the first time looking at it. That's impressive. Oh, wow. I guess people are watching. I don't know, y'all. I don't know. I just feel like I'm at a point where I'm just going to really be who I am. And if who I am is aggravating for other people, there's thousands, maybe even millions of other channels. Maybe you can find one of those who will cater to your need for sugarcoating or whatever. Here, that's not what I do. You're welcome to stay, but just know you're here for growth. And that growth is probably going to involve you becoming triggered and agitated by the things that I say, because it's triggering your cognitive dissonance. That's a you process, not an Emmie process. You are now ready to begin seeing the ways in which you have lied to yourself in your participation with whatever it is people are telling you have to participate in. You don't have to participate in nothing. 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 Literally nothing. So free yourself to make the decisions of what you're going to choose to participate in. This is not me telling you what to participate in. This is me telling you there are options. Don't ever give anyone that kind of power that you're going to let them dictate. Not even me. Y'all, stop that. Stop that. Don't ever let me, of all people, hello, I'm easily triggered. Hello? You don't let me dictate to you what to choose. Yes, please hear me when I say there's other options. Consider your other options. What are my options, Emmie? I don't know. I don't know. It's for you to explore and consider on your own terms at your own time. Take your power back. Don't give it to me. I don't want that. I barely know what to do with my own. What makes you think I'm going to properly, responsibly handle yours? Hello? Come on now. I don't know what to do with your options. I'm barely figuring out what to do with my own. Yeah, that's the reality of it. I'm barely figuring out what to do with my own life options. I still keep choosing the hardest path possible, but guess what? That's not me messing up. That's me still not yet being mature enough within myself to be able to see and know there are options that are less painful, less difficult, less filled with struggle and strife than what I've selected. But still, that's not me messing up, because guess what? In choosing the hardest path possible, the hardest option possible, I'm actually gifting myself the opportunity to maximize the growth that I'm experiencing in that cycle of learning. What do I mean? Let's make an analogy. You're running on the treadmill. You didn't know this treadmill has the option of an incline or a decline. You've been running for 30 minutes on the highest incline possible. Oh my gosh, it's the hardest thing ever. Oh, goodness. It's the hardest thing ever. And then you realize when you look over and you see someone starting their workout and they're lowering the incline of their treadmill. Oh my God, I could have done it flat. You probably feel dumb for not realizing, right? Oh no, let that go. Let that go, because guess what? And I've seen this. I'd probably burn about 200 or so calories sprinting flat for 30 minutes, 15 minutes maybe. I think I was doing like, okay, let's face it. I can't do incline because my knees are bad. I can do about 250 calories in about 5 minutes, sprinting my ass off flat. I just increase the resistance, right? I do it on an elliptical. If I were to increase the incline, I will mess my knees up. But gosh, in that 5 minutes or so, I could double. I could double what I burn, triple even. Depends on what my knees can handle. That harder experience that you chose, I think it's time for you to recognize. I think it's time for someone to be really, really honest with you. You consistently choose the hardest way possible because you're capable of learning at a much more elevated rate, accelerated rate than the person who never chooses the hard way. Let that sink in. It's evidence of your elevation in capability. Let that sink in. You're comparing yourself to people who are less capable, right? Less capability. That doesn't mean they're less than you. That means they're just not able to handle that elevation and struggle. That elevation and struggle is the very thing that elevates your potentiality. Let that sink in. You don't give yourself enough credit for the way you actually are. I used to think I was incompetent. I mean, that's so harsh to hear. But I used to think I was incompetent and I would treat myself as such. And then one day I was just literally sobbing. Micah goes, "What are you crying about?" Like, just really matter of fact. That hurt my feelings more, so I cried harder. So he repeated again, "What are you crying about?" I do understand, but I'm so stupid. I always just pick the hardest thing ever. Why do I always pick the hardest way to do things? Because you're that much more capable than the next person. What? What? Increase in resistance and incline requires increase in your capability. Hello? Yeah. And I was like, wait, so I'm not stupid? And he goes, stupid people don't ask if they're stupid. They don't. They're just like, oh, I don't get it. I was like, oh my God. That's so true, though. People who are not as intellectually robust, they kind of just like, well, I don't get stuff like that. They're not assessing, questioning, trying to understand why they lack the capability. They just don't. They get and they embrace, accept that they don't have that type of capability. Like, I keep thinking about when I went snowboarding years ago. I went snowboarding years ago and I just don't have the capability of going down a bunny slope with unstable knees and attached to skis or snowboard. I don't have that capability. I'm just going to accept that. I'm not going to keep trying. That's not to say that I do that for everything. There's many, many things in my life that I don't get the first time. I will keep plugging until not only do I get it, I excel at it. Okay. I don't have to excel at everything to have value. I just don't. I don't have to excel at everything. I only have to excel at what matters to me. There you go. Do you matter to yourself? Because now we digress back to the original topic of keeping silent is actually what triggers that internal war. Avoiding any type of confrontation, even confronting yourself. What does confronting yourself mean? It doesn't mean attacking yourself. It means being able to look at yourself and be like, what's up? Why are we doing this? What is going on with us that we're not taking into consideration what we actually need right now? Why are we not speaking up? And here's the reality of it. If you don't yet have the courage to speak up in the environment that you exist within, that's not the environment for you. That's the environment that you need to quietly exit out of. Okay? Ooh. Here. Breaking news. The great alignment. Relocate. Move yourself to a different mental house. Relocating for ideological reasons. My nose is itchy. My nose is so itchy. If the mental house you exist within is not suitable, pack all your emotions and move to a different mental house. Yeah, many of us attack ourselves. Why? Because it's something we've learned from the environment we're in. When we consistently are attacked by other people, even passive aggressively, we learn to accept that this is the only type of treatment we deserve. And then we grow up and we reestablish this. Even when people around us are healthy, we encourage them to do this. We encourage them to take advantage of us. Even people who have a very clear understanding and respect of boundaries, and they try and be mindful of boundaries and all of this and all of that. If you really assess where your life has gone, you'll see that a lot of the things that people have thought was okay originated as something you taught them was acceptable. This is not about blame. This is about taking accountability for the ways in which you add to your own struggle. If you can take accountability for that, if you can own that type of behavior where you're encouraging people to do this type of thing without realizing it, it's a trauma response. Because someone is like, why would I do that? Well, I did that because I felt like if I wasn't in service, a spiritual way of saying, if I didn't overgive, then I wouldn't be allowed to stay. trauma response. I'm buying my way into the environment. You realize when you do that? I buy my way into environments by offering things that other people can't offer. Well, I used to. Now I kind of just quietly observe. If there's truly a need for help, I help. And if it's something where, no, girl, no, girl, don't do that. Oh, masculine. So, exists within you is both the masculine and the feminine. You have both energetic genders, the positive and the negative charge. Simplify your workflow. You don't have to shut off access to one part of you just because society tells you you have to conform to gender roles. You don't even have to identify as a different gender than what you actually are, just to account for both existing within you. You don't have to. You can choose to. You absolutely have that right. You absolutely have the right to identify as whatever you want to identify as. I'm just saying, if there's energetic stuff that is causing you to have this internal turmoil of what am I, address the energetic stuff so that you have better clarity on what you're going to choose to identify as. I'm not transgender. People have tried to convince me that I have serious denial about the fact that I'm transgender. I'm masculine, but I'm not a male. I don't identify as a male. I identify as a female that has extremely elevated masculine energy. I'm not the size of a male, but I have very masculine energy. Do I have to conform to what society says and oh, I need to figure out my pronouns and I need to figure out my orientation and I need to. No, that's nobody's business. And no one gets to tell me that I need to identify as something outside of what I identify as. This applies to everybody. I don't get to tell you, hey, there's only two. No, you believe what you believe. You identify as what you identify. But that ends with you. You don't then get to tell me that you went through this journey and now I have to join you there. That's just that. You know what I mean? I have very masculine type energy. I look very feminine. I sound feminine. I don't conduct myself feminine. I really don't. And that's okay. That's okay. I've been shamed most of my life for being more masculine. I had relatives who were concerned because I was a tomboy growing up. And they're like, oh my God, she might become a lesbian. And if I am, who gives a shit? That's my business. That's not for you to be concerned about. That's for me to discover within myself and choose to identify as that if I so choose. We have to get all of these chicken heads that keep cluck, 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 cluck in your ear, out of your ear. Remove the chickens out of your ear. Just let them just drip right out. Just take them out of your ear. You have too many people dictating all kind of opposing things to you. You're confused about who you are. It's because of that shit. It's because of that. It's literally because of that. I have so many people in my life who at one point were concerned that I was lesbian, right? Which I'm not. And then I entered into another part of my life where, I had quite a few people who were like, girl, you're closet lesbian. Why do people keep telling me this shit? Because one group is heterosexual and they need me to be heterosexual. Another group is not heterosexual and they want to convince me that I'm not heterosexual either. How about F both groups? Let me decide for myself. How about that? How about get out of my ear? How about stop telling me who to be? Instead, witness the becoming of me. When was the last time we took a stand like that? When? When was the last time you did that even within yourself? Where you're just like, why are you all in my business? Why can't you just witness me becoming myself? Why do you have to put your input into it? And see, sometimes, and this is what I've learned, people see you're already in the process of becoming who you actually are, and there's great value in who you actually are. They want to capitalize off who you actually are and your process of becoming you. And so they like to give their input, because when you actually live up to who you are, then they can claim they made you, that it's because of them. No, it's not. It's not. It's because I lost my fear of who I'm becoming. And how did I lose my fear? I stopped listening. I stopped fighting myself. And because I stopped fighting myself, I stopped listening to other people. Your energy feels like it could throw down one hell of a right hook. I prefer submission moves. I have fragile joints, and I don't want to risk dislocation of any of my phalanges or wrist. Um, I could, but yeah. I prefer submission moves. I have brothers who used to play with me doing MMA growing up. I mean, I'm not a fighter because I don't follow the rules. I couldn't do competitive type stuff like that. I'm too competitive first and foremost. That's just who I am. So I don't allow myself to compete or compare with other people, because it gets out of hand very, very quickly. And secondly, that type of rough play, rough play suddenly triggers my survival mode, and I'm not going to stop even if you tap. You have to actually stop moving. You have to lose conscious. I'm not going to let go because I'm smaller than most people. I'm not going to let go. It then becomes not a game to me. I know who I am, so I don't get to play rough like that. Just saying. I'm not saying I'm badass. I'm saying I have zero internal control when it comes to situations like that. So I don't allow myself to get into fist fights. I don't allow myself to play rough like that. I'm just like, yo, no, I gotta go. I can see myself hurting you. I gotta go. I want to be peaceful. I gotta go. See, and there's nothing wrong with recognizing that's how you are. There's nothing wrong with recognizing that's how you are. Most people would be ashamed to say that kind of stuff. I'm not insecure in who I am anymore. Not to that degree where I have to be ashamed that I function the way I do. I've had to survive my life. I've had to survive my life. The reason those type of characteristics exist within me is because they needed to, so I could survive my life. It no longer becomes a game when you trigger that. And I don't get to control that. That has to play itself out. So if I know that about myself, I owe it to myself to not allow myself to be in environments where I feel so unsafe that I go into survival mode. Don't you owe yourself that? To exist in a place where you don't feel so unsafe that you then go into that state of all of your actions and decisions are strictly about surviving, that's not a good place to live within yourself. It's not. It's not. And on the flip side of that coin, I have a very clear understanding that, you know what? I laid my weapons down, but I never gave them away. So if you need that to come out of me, hey, it's still there. It's still there. It's literally still there. Every once in a while, I dust off the weaponry and I leave them in their cases. They're fine there. They don't need to be completely gotten rid of. Have you ever heard of the concept of a peaceful warrior, where you are highly trained, but that doesn't mean you're a violent person? Where you can exist as a farmer, trained in tactical skills, and in times of peace, you're simply a farmer. But should there ever come a time of war, you can handle yourself as well. It's okay to be balanced in that way. It's okay to recognize that you are capable of handling any type of situation that your life brings to you. That does not mean you're violent. That does not mean you're dangerous. It just doesn't. We exist in societies where if you have the capability of being assertive, more focus is going to be placed on forcing you to comply. No. No. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Nope. We have to make sure we exist balanced within ourselves. You have to be balanced within yourself. The opposing components within you exist for a reason. There's a reason I am the way I am. I'm not using it as an excuse for poor behavior. I'm stating this because it's important to know I'm giving myself full permission to have these opposing components, and that I know when to tap into what component, and that I've developed enough maturity that if I cannot control which component I'm tapping into, and that it would be inappropriate and I would not have control over my capabilities, that I am to leave that environment. That's not me being weak. That's me being intelligent, emotionally, intellectually, you know? I've been in situations where, yeah, it's online and they're like, oh, see, she's not commenting because she knows I'm right. No, it's because you don't get any more of my energy, you fucking vampire. Yeah. How's it feel to argue by yourself? Mhm. I once had someone who went on one of my friends' posts whose son is vaccine injured. Um, and they were saying all kind of stuff, right? And then I replied and I was like, your behavior is out of hand. I find it very disrespectful. The fact that I'm offended for this person tells me how far out of hand your behavior actually is. And they're like, I'll debate anything. Y'all are just tripping because um y'all are just tripping because you see how smart I am. Pick a subject. I'll debate it with you. Let's talk about the high risk neonate. And I did an entire wall of information regarding high risk neonates. What's that? A neonate is a newborn. That's a medical term. I was trying to debate with him as he requested. The intricacies of NICU procedure for high risk neonates, incubation periods, and a lot of other things. He goes, "Oh, no, no, I don't know about that." Oh, no, bitch. You said pick anything. See, you only think you're the smartest in this chat because no one else is challenging you. And now you're putting your place, not because I'm challenging you, but because I accepted your invitation. How does it feel to know your exact place in the pecking order? Boy, I was blocked so quick. Sometimes you show up, other times you don't. You get to pick and choose that. Did I show up to flex my ego? No. I showed up because I didn't fucking like how he was addressing my friend, who was not bothering anyone. It was on her profile. And he just felt the need to try and make it like he's the smartest. Honey, just because you're the smartest in your environment does not mean you're in a smart environment. I'm just saying, perspective. Perspective. Don't allow your perspective of yourself and your place within your environment to affect the way you think you fit into the grand scheme of things. I'm smart, but do I think I'm the smartest person around? No. And because I'm a balanced person, am I intimidated when I come across someone who's smarter than me? No, I celebrate that. I get excited for real. Like, I get really excited. Like, oh my God, tell me more. I have no interest in trying to be the smartest in a group. That means I'm not going to grow anymore. When you pair me with people who far excel beyond what I'm capable of in that moment, whoo, choo, choo, yes. Because now, as I'm bathed by your energy, I have the potential to expand and grow and rise to the level you're at. That's a beautiful thing. When was the last time you celebrated an increase in your potentiality? By being in an environment that's uncomfortable because you don't know as much as the people in that environment. When was the last time? I literally have no interest being at the top of anything. None. I just want to learn and grow to the highest degree my capability will allow at any given period or cycle of my life. One of my most cherished experiences, you guys might laugh. Now, you guys already know my children are profoundly gifted, right? So they're not like regular children. And I remember I brought one of my sons to this program where it's strictly for profoundly gifted children. You need to have the IQ test to show, because this program, although it's like preschool all the way up to high school, and it's a very small program, and the program is taught by professors from Ivy League colleges in the San Francisco Bay Area. So we had people, professors, heads of departments, department heads from UC Berkeley, from Stanford, just, all of that. And so they're teaching these children. And my child was, I want to say he's like 3 or 4 years old. I think he's 4, maybe 5, something like that, right? And all of these kids, they're around his age. They're freaking highly intelligent, just like my kid. And one of my most cherished memories is when, because I would stay in the class, one of the other kids was like, "Should we include your mom?" They were doing experimentation. They were growing E. coli colonies on slides. And they They're like all about 4 or 5 years old, right? They're growing E. coli colonies on petri dishes, and they were examining the colonies on slides because the department head of biology from UC Berkeley was that cycle's emphasis, right? Biology, microbiology at that. And the little girl says to my son, "Should we include your mom?" And he goes, "If you want to," because I was just sitting there like quietly. And she goes, "Do you want to share my petri dish?" Sure. And then she went over the logistics of how we were going to grow the colonies. You need the gelatin, it need to first be sterile, and then you need to add this, this, and this. And she goes, "Do you want a notebook to take notes?" I actually do. I do. Can I have a notebook? And these children, 4 and 5-year-olds, they literally took it upon themselves to gather around and begin teaching me. And I was literally like, yes. Okay, so then what's the objective? And the professor, she looks over and she's like, "You don't have to do this." And I was like, "Oh no, I'm liking it." And she started giggling. I mean, really though, it doesn't matter who you are or how old you are. If I can learn from you, fuck yeah. Teach me. Teach me. By all means, teach me. I'm open to learning. I'm open to hearing. Just don't disregard me. Don't disrespect me. Don't degrade my dignity. And these children, oh my God, they're so far advanced from the average adult because there were terms I didn't understand. She took the time to explain these terms to me. There was no condescending nature about it at all. And at the end of it, she goes, "Your mom's kind of smart." It's like, really? She goes, "You need to work a little bit on the terminology, but you're kind of smart." I was literally like, "You see some potential." I've got excited, like, oh my God, there's like potential for me to actually like fit in the class. And these are all children, toddlers. They were toddlers. Toddlers. That don't mean nothing. They were keeping up with the department head of biology from UC Berkeley. You know, people from around the world want to go to UC Berkeley, right? I'm just saying. Yeah, definitely. Being open to learning. I mean, you know, there are a lot of things that I share or I state in live streams. And I'm not saying it as the utmost authority in anything at all. These are things that I'm speculating, things that I'm considering, exploring, hypothesizing. I don't need to be absolutely correct. I need to learn and grow to the highest degree I possibly can. And regardless of who you are, if you can help me to learn and grow, I'm open. I'm open to it. And when you can live like that, I mean, what kind of limit do you have? None. There's no limits. There's no limits. There really is no limits. None. So why do you want to be limited? Because society tells you have to stay within a specific role, you have to play a specific part, you can't go beyond what, you know what I mean? Like, so being someone who was raised in a traditionally Asian manner, you know, we have all these stereotypes of how Asians are raised to excel. We're raised to be overachievers, right? And then for some people, especially in the American culture, there's this huge stigma like that's not the proper way to parent and yada yada yada. I mean, do I agree with the type of pressure that was on me as a child? I mean, I got straight A's. It was not enough. It's like, why don't you have A pluses? I got over 4.0. It was not enough. Can't you go higher? You know? Um, so, yeah, that did have some negative effects on me. But please don't try and convince me that I had some sort of messed up childhood. No, I didn't. I had the childhood my soul hand selected for me, full of the experiences my soul determined was appropriate and necessary to cultivate me to the degree that I need to be cultivated. Yeah, it fractured me as a child. It did. Made me feel like I wasn't enough most of the time. But I'm not that child anymore. I'm so thankful for the way I was raised. Why? Because even through that toxicity, even through that seemingly unnecessary fracturing of an innocent child, it taught me a work ethic that most people cannot compare to. I still have a lot of things I need to work on within myself. But the reality is this: whatever I work on, I will excel at it because there's no other option. I don't know any other way. Anything I do, if I'm interested in it to any degree, I will fucking excel at that because there's no other option. There's no other way. You either excel or you force yourself to. Okay. And it's not excel in comparison with anyone else. It's excel beyond the limitation that you created for yourself. And that's it. That's how I make it healthy for myself. Excel beyond the limitations that I thought were my limitations. No more war here. Once I reach that level that I know I can reach, push slightly beyond it. There you go, girl. You proved to yourself. You proved to yourself. Do you want to continue or do you want to let it go? Do you want to learn more? Do you want to reach higher? Or do you want to let it go? Take a moment, decide. Whatever you decide, it's fine. And I've done this throughout my entire adulthood. I've done this throughout my entire adulthood, and people who don't understand the process have shamed me. They've shamed me. You can't just pick one thing. Why do I have to pick one thing? How are you going to finish college if you pick all these different majors? A double major is understandable. Quadruple? Quintuple? So drop out of college? Because that's what I'm hearing. Because if you're going to limit me like that, I mean, I really don't need to finish college. I don't. I can just continue learning, which is what I did. That's what I did. I continued learning, and I never finished college. I didn't want to anymore. I don't need to fit that mold. I just don't. I have no desire to have a piece of paper and the alphabet after my name just to prove to you that I have substance, some sort of intrinsic value. And maybe you guys need to begin having this mindset of if you can't see the value that I naturally possess, if you can't see that without me producing a certificate or letters after my name, well, then you don't deserve the gravity of my presence. You can excuse yourself. You can excuse yourself. Your presence is not necessary on my journey. You've served your purpose in this moment. You've got me to remember that I don't need your permission. I don't need you to value me. I carry a value that's determined by me, and it's in full alignment with my capabilities. So thank you for your part in reminding me that I really don't need you. And I'm just going to go ahead and carry on with my day. You can excuse yourself. All right, scrying mirror, shadow. Enter the shadow to exit it. That's what I just heard. Enter the shadow to exit it. Enter your shadow realm to see what your strengths are. So you can exit out of that place of lack of knowing what your strengths are. Enter your shadow to exit it. Did you know, and you can find information on this, that if you homeschool and your parent prints out a diploma, that institutions recognize that printed diploma just like a high school diploma? One of my old neighbors, one of the most intelligent people I have ever come across, he was hosting I forget what the Google camps or something like that at his home. These were meetups where he would teach all sorts of different stuff. And, you know, my kids are profoundly gifted just like him. So my kid would go across the street to his house for these meetups, and they were building a 3D printer. I was like, oh, go ahead, go knock on their door, see if they have space. And so he kind of like took it upon himself to take one of my kids under his wing and really share some technical things with him. Yeah, that neighbor is so ridiculously intelligent. Just such an appreciation for such a ridiculously intelligent person, and just so kind. And his wife became my friend too. It turns out he dropped out of high school when he was 16. He couldn't be bothered to go to school because it was just boring. Sometimes the most intelligent, sometimes those who have incarnated with a level of intelligence that provides the space for humanity to have hope for the future, they don't do very well in school. Why? The structuring of school is to create a docile, compliant workforce. That's not what they incarnated for. So, of course, they're not going to excel in that environment. I remember my son was 13 and he was doing, I think he was 12 or 13, and he was doing some pretty advanced high school stuff. He was in AP classes. And the program that he was in, it was an online academy, and there was a lecture hall, and they were talking about something. I don't remember. I just remember he texted me, and he's like, this teacher is full of shit. And he knows he's not allowed to cuss. But he texted me that. I'm like, what is going on? Because he's in his room in class. And I'm like, please don't be rude to the teacher. And he's like, Mom, this teacher just said in lecture, smoking cannabis causes cancer. And I was like, what? And he goes, yes. And I asked her to please cite her sources. And she couldn't. And I was like, oh, hell no. What? Yeah. And then from then on, he didn't want to do the homework. He didn't want to do the homework. That was the start of this trickle effect of over maybe a week or two where he wasn't turning in any homework. And then I realized I accidentally logged into his portal, his his student portal instead of my other kids. And I saw he was getting a D. And I was livid. And I was like, listen, you're finding a fucking program. You're going to enroll yourself in that program, and it better satisfy all of the requirements. Because we're not doing this shit. We're not playing this fucking game. And then it took me a long time to realize that's what shut him down. That at the young age that he was at, he was able to realize this is actually bullshit. And that was the most pivotal moment of our parent-child dynamic, because it was at that moment I told him straight up, you want to be treated like an adult, act like it. I'm capable of treating you like an adult, but you better start acting like it. So now you got to find your own program. You don't want to participate in that program? Fine, we'll pull you out. But you got to find your own program. You have 48 hours to find me a suitable replacement program that will satisfy all of the credits you need. And he did. It only took him a few hours. And when I allowed him to do that, to truly step into this role of you are responsible for your life, sir, you know what he did? He excelled. He found a program that helped him become a self-taught sound engineer and producer. He did that for himself. The only credit that I will accept is that I held him accountable for his behavior. You want to make these adult decisions and okay, act like an adult. I'm going to treat you like an adult. Act like an adult. You got to find your own program. It better satisfy both high school as well as college credits. I'm not fucking around. I know how smart you are. I'm not fucking around with you. I know how smart you are. You're going to catch a hot one from me. You're going to hear an earful from me. This is your life. You need to make a decision right now. And he made a decision to choose what he excels at, to not waste his time. And all I've done as his parent is just support those decisions. And that's that. I'm not going to tell you who to be at this point. I'm not. I have to trust that I've been present enough and I've guided you enough to make the proper decisions for yourself. You decide what's proper. You decide that, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine because I know you're going to be fine. I believe in your capability and I believe in your maturity to choose to tap into that capability. When was the last time someone treated you with that same regard instead of trying to force you to fit in a box? Truthfully, he was done with high school at like, I want to say 13 or 14 years old. He could have tested out, and then I could have shoved him in college and been that traditional Asian parent where it's like, you know, you have to be a physicist, you have to be this, you have to be, you know what I mean? Like, no. If you're going to excel, it's going to be on your own terms, at what you love, not what I dictate. I come from a medically inclined family. The expectation that they had was he was going to become like a badass doctor or whatever, or something medical, something very, very high in that medical field. Mm-hmm. That's their expectation of him. No, as his mother, my expectation is for him to grow into the person he is, not who he is told to be. Like, no. And yeah, he's still extremely medically inclined. Absolutely. I mean, there's so many different things he can explore and so many gifts he can utilize. And I tell him, hun, whatever you pick, you're going to excel at it. There's no right or wrong. Just pick something. Put your all into it. We don't like it anymore. Pick something else. Put your all into it. Eventually, you're going to pick something and stay with it. And then that's how you know that's what you're supposed to do. No matter what, you're going to excel. Failure is not an option. That doesn't run in your blood. It just doesn't. I'm sorry. There was no sense of failure to inherit from me or your father. That's not part of your reality. I'm sorry. It's not about comparing or competing with other people. It's about the recognition that you will not fail because you have the support to hold you up in times where you don't remember or know that you can stand on your own. Like, you can do this at any age. You literally can do this at any age. You can choose to support yourself in that way at literally any age. It's just what you believe. If you want to finish traditional schooling, you can if you want. Do you need to? That's the real question. Do you need that paper in order to be what you know you are? For me, I've debated year after year after year after year. There's no degree that will fully encompass what I am and what I am becoming. So, do I need that? No. I would only be getting that to quiet down any sense of insecurity that I don't compare to other people unless I have that certificate. So, Brandy, my parents just got frustrated. My dad got drunk, bullied me for his drinking, and kicked me out of the house. So I gave up and didn't even think about trying to excel at anything. You no longer have to carry that. That's not yours. That's your parents' failure. It's not yours. So at this point, make a choice. What do you want to be? What do you want to do? What path do you want to take? And take it. And then if you quit halfway, that's not quitting. That's you being honest with yourself that this is not really the path for you. Then pick another path. Take it for as long as you can. And then if you realize at some point down that path it's not for you, pick another path until you find the path that you really can easily travel upon. Not because there's no challenge, but because even with challenges, you want to be there. And that's that. That's that. I was told that I'm a failure because I didn't finish college. I've been being told that for quite a long time. That I'm lazy, that I'm a failure, that I totally wasted my life. And yeah, not to me. To me, I'm doing something so profound that it's hard for even my brain to grasp most of the time. But even if I can't fully understand it, I'm going to accept it. I'm going to embrace it. This is where my life has taken me. And this is where I'm supposed to be. And I have no shame about that. I have no shame about where I am because the reality is, I can't be taught to be who I am. And part of my purpose and what I excel at is being who I am with no shame, no guilt, no fear, no hesitation. So, turns out I didn't need school. Turns out I needed to just drop my fear of who I am becoming and who I am. It's just one of those things. And it's not about confidence. It's just me realizing what the truth of my life is. I don't need to have a war within myself where I am telling myself I have to be what other people tell me to be, or I have no value. I set my value, and then I give you permission to either agree or not agree. That's how it works. That's how it works. You set that value, and then you let people decide for themselves. Do they agree? Do they not agree? What's up? And if they don't agree, okay, then that's not the person for you. If they do agree, okay, thank you. Thank you for, that secondary validation. That secondary validation that validates my own validation of myself. Thank you for that. Didn't realize I needed that little bit of reminder that I'm on the right path today. It's a beautiful, beautiful way to exist or you no longer need permission, but you also no longer need to pretend like everything is perfectly fine and you are confident day in and day out and no one gonna tear you down. No, there's days where I have low days. That's okay. Those low days are the days where charge is loaded, pulling me backwards. And once I release my need to control and understand before I allow myself to move forward, once I let go, I'm launched forward further than I ever thought I could go. And no, my existence in this way does not negate anyone else's existence, does not invalidate anyone else's existence. People will tell you that you're invalidating them just because what? Because you're finally on that self love journey and accepting yourself as you are, knowing there's room to grow, to shift, to expand. What's your journey got to do with someone else's worth? Ah, are your people, the people in your environment, the kind of people who base their value on how low they can put you? Those are not your people, I promise you. They're not your people. People who exist like that should never be allowed to be your people. But Emmie, what if they're my family? Relatives are always your relatives. Doesn't mean they need access to you. It means when they begin acting that way, we need to begin gathering our things and ending the visit. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's it. I don't need to correct you. I don't need to tell you that you're wrong about me. No, I just need to not be around you. Does that mean you're suddenly disowned? And no, unfortunately, you're still my relative. And, you know, that's just that. That's it. That's it. Ooh, El Sexy. I'm a 33-year-old high school dropout who recently finished an RN program. I just took the NCLEX on Monday and awaiting results today. Whew. You got this, boo. You got this. If that's why you've been absent, fuck, that's the best reason to have not been here for quite a few months. You've been missed, by the way. You've been missed, by the way, just so you know. I did notice you haven't been here, and I've just figured life was busy, and that's the best type of busy. That is the best type of busy. If that's where your path takes you. Beautiful. That's beautiful. You're going to do really well. You're going to do really, really well. Even if you don't get the results you want today, hey, take it again. Take it as many times as you need. That's that. I'm sure you did really good, though. I'm really sure you've been doing really, really well. Your energy doesn't strike me as someone who can be held down for too long. You definitely strike me as someone who, someone holds you down, you're going to come back up swinging. Keep swinging. Keep swinging. Nothing wrong with that reaction. People didn't like you swinging, they shouldn't have held you down. Oops. They miscalculated. Oops. Mm-hmm. You're going to do really well. So, protection. Protect yourself from the people who are trying to convince you don't deserve to be protected. That's a statement all on its own. There's no additional information that needs to be put with that. You know, that's it. Protect yourself from the people who don't believe you deserve to be protected. Fertility. Birth something beautiful for yourself. Okay? Create something beautiful for yourself. Something that you know you deserve. Card number 13, power of attraction. Allowing yourself to call to yourself your energy, like-minded people, like-minded type of energy. Call back to you your sovereignty. Call back to you your right, your entitlement to yourself in your life. You are entitled to you. If we can live in such a way where we can empower people to the degree that they feel entitled to us, honey, Honey, do that for yourself too. Less for them, more for you. You're the only one that actually is entitled to you. Okay? Um, there's a secondary message that I just have to make you guys aware that there's a secondary message for that card that I will not be discussing today. Card number 21, beyond the mind, the heart beats. So, beyond what you can think for yourself is a rhythm to your life that really serves to take you closer to the shores of your dream life. Okay? This heartbeat, this pulse of creation, it circulates this manifestation energy around through your entire auric field. But when we halt it from entering into our actual cognitive mind, our conscious mind, we greatly affect our ability to manifest the life that our soul has already designed for us. You guys have seen time and time and time again me struggle in the live streams because I'm blocking my soul from helping me to realize certain things. And in that realization that I'm blocking, I'm taking away my ability to properly participate in the manifestation, the attracting of the things that I need for my growth. That's okay. I'll eventually grow through that. Right now, I haven't grown enough to be beyond that. Eventually, I will. However long it takes me is however long it takes. There's no need to rush. There's no need to slow it down. There's just a need to be present and hold myself accountable for the ways in which I disrupt my own process. I don't have to fight with myself over this. This is my destiny. It is mine. And when I've gone through enough to develop enough emotional, mental, spiritual maturity, then I know I will no longer block whatever this is. No matter what, it will come back to me. Okay. Whatever this abundance is, whatever like connections, opportunities, whatever it is, what's rightfully yours is rightfully yours, and it always remains so. It will always remain so. Sometimes when you rush yourself, you actually create more problems than what benefits that rushing is giving you. Because really, have you ever rushed yourself to try and understand the building of IKEA furniture? You put one wrong piece, you got to dismantle that whole motherfucker again. But had you just slowed down and really try and get yourself to understand what piece goes where, then you only build it one time. Okay. Sometimes efficiency means taking longer. When you feel like you have to rush through your lessons, when you feel like you have to rush through your life, tell yourself that. Sometimes efficiency means taking longer, taking the longer route, reading the directions again, really considering things before you commit to a decision. Sometimes efficiency means taking longer. Card number 37, focus on the light. When your environment is dark, when you find no light, no sunshine, turn to the sunflowers of your life. It's been said that the sunflowers move to face the sun every day. And as the sun moves, so do the sunflowers. And on days where there is no sun, the sunflowers face each other and provide each other that sunlight. Face your sunflowers. These are the people in your life who you don't want to inconvenience, but love you. You know they love you. You know they support you. You know that they hold space for you in times where you feel so crushed by your thoughts and your feelings about your life. If only they knew how much more space you needed, they'd expand the amount they hold for you. It's about communicating your needs, finding the environment that you actually belong in. I'm only going to acknowledge her once in this reading. And that's the depth of the acknowledgement. Card number 14, going beyond normal. You have to go beyond normal. If you don't have sunflowers in your life, stop tending to the weeds and grow some. You have to grow some. Sorry if that's abrasive, Brandy. I'm working through a process internally. Question, guys. Is it considered cutting someone off if you choose to not publicly process communications, where you choose to keep the communications in a private setting rather than saying it publicly? Is that going back on this, I guess, promise that you're not going to cut someone off? Or is that a form of cutting them off by no longer processing communications while in live streams? Because I'm kind of boundaries is one of the most difficult topics and lessons for me in this life. I don't understand boundaries. I don't know how to gently enforce boundaries. I don't know how to read social cues and operate within societal structures where social cues are the primary way of conforming and complying. I just don't understand them. So it's either like all or nothing, like I'm going to give everything away or I'm not giving anything at all. Maybe I'll just think on it more. Card number 14, going beyond normal. Going beyond what you thought you were capable of. Going beyond what you perceive as the outermost limits of who you are in your comfort zone, you know? It's your sovereign choice. If this space requires a discussion, give yourself the discernment to know. Maybe it's a case by case thing, not a static one. Yeah. So, card number 29, seeing the true you. Okay. So this ties in. This really, really ties in because now I feel, sorry, the frequency is too high. I feel like this internal war being initiated. That internal war has a lot to do with like, I promised I wouldn't be like reactive and just cut off communication, and then it circles back around to like, okay, so I am slightly being reactive, but I'm not trying to be reactive. But at the same time, there's this component of like privacy of communication that I never got permission from another person to be communicating in this way and have it be publicly witnessed, and it, because I don't have that type of confirmation, like I need to make a choice to respect sovereignty and privacy of people who never gave permission, you know what I mean? So then it becomes this thing of like, what is this communication really? Is it this person trying to force um thought processes on someone else and using me as like the bugle in their ear? And I don't want to be that, where um I was going to say, I don't want to be that, where I feel like I'm being part of the coercion. And then she's like, sometimes people don't have the courage to give the permission, but they show up to listen to the things they need to hear. And sometimes when they hear enough, then they build up the courage. So, I mean, I don't know. I still don't know. But I'm seeing in this moment the truth of who I am is still in alignment with the truth that I present to you guys. That level of integrity is preserved. Like, I always want to operate with some level of elevated integrity. It's not enough to have basic levels of integrity. I want to always be at the uppermost level of integrity that I can function at. I always want to um, protect and honor your sovereign right to, privacy, especially for really like sensitive topics. So for that, I'm grateful. I'm definitely grateful for the opportunity to recognize I do have that integrity, that I'm not intentionally violating things. Card number 17, what is already with you? The answers that you seek are already with you. The validation that you need is already with you. What else is with you, though, that's obscuring all of this? Insecurities, doubts, all of these distorted type of concepts that keep you confined to this limited space of I'm not good enough. Like, you are good enough. You are good enough. You're not good enough for what? Some unrealistic, misaligned expectation someone outside of you has. And I promise you, this expectation that they have of you, they can't even sustain it. They can't even reach it, much less sustain it. So if that's the case, who the hell are they to have this expectation of you? Card number 23, defend to the end the worthwhile. Defend to the end the worthwhile. Allowing yourself to find the courage to take the actions that are necessary for those who are not able to for themselves. That includes you. Find this part of you that exists within you, that has all the courage that the larger part of you seems to have forgotten that you naturally have. I am not ignoring you. I prefer to speak to you privately. Well, then find a way to show me that I have permission. Because unless I know I have permission, I'm not violating privacy. It doesn't directly involve me, so I can't speak about my experiences. It's one thing for me to share what I personally experience. It's a whole nother thing for me to, like, basically doing readings for people who never asked me to. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's something so violating about someone who has capabilities like that, just randomly going up to people and doing readings on them, scanning them. That's a huge violation of sovereign space. You know what happens to people if they do that to me? Usually Michael gets really mad. Usually he prepares to really F stuff up. And I have to be like, bro, hey, hey, just no, calm down. You don't want to be like that. It's fine. It's no biggie. You don't got to fight like that on my behalf. It's no biggie, you know? So it's like I have to carry that same level of elevated integrity. Just because I can does not mean I will. It has to be something souls agree upon. It has to be something that's chosen out of free will. Like, I want to know. Tell me because I want to know. It can't be this thing of like, well, here it is. No, that's not how I function. So card number 7, Legacy of Light. When you come from a legacy of light and you remember it, when you remember that you come from a legacy of light, you then begin to naturally operate and choose to only operate in that higher level of integrity, a higher level of compassion. Now, it's a lot easier to have this higher level of integrity and compassion for other people. It takes much more effort to have it for yourself. You're worth the effort. You're worth the investment. So do it. Invest it. Card number 42, the word wants to be written. Knowing that you're bringing to fruition the very experiences, connections, losses that you need. For some, the words that want to be written involve the separation of individuals. For others, the words that want to be written involve the reconnection or new connection with others. And yet, for others, the word that wants to be written is simply a declaration of what it is you want. What do you want? You deserve to take time to see what these different things are and then choose what you actually want. Many of us have not chosen what we want. We don't even know what we're choosing from. Can these things be happening without the lower self knowing? Yes. A lot of these spiritual practices are happening. Energetic components are happening without the lower human self being aware anything's happening. Yeah. Most people are so misaligned between the self and the soul that they're very much oblivious to what's going on energetically speaking. That has to be a conscious decision to reunify the two. Or another way that that happens, that realignment, is when you experience trauma induced accretion, when you're traumatized by an event, by something you witness, it kind of jostles you back into alignment for some. Okay. Card number 32, faith in the process. You've already been stripped bare. You're naked in your truth. If you can't walk down the path a little bit further to receive what's rightfully yours, allow your soul to put you in a radio flyer and drag you. The dragging's not always by your hair through a dry riverbed. Sometimes the dragging of you involves placing you in something with wheels and gently pulling you to the next part of your journey. If you notice, I'm being told to point this out, if you notice, there's not much room for anything outside of you. Okay? So for some, this is telling me that you're being encouraged to let something go, that needs to really, fully, truly be left behind. Really, truly, fully left behind. Okay? Card number 38, restore and replenish. For some, the act of leaving it behind leaves you like this. That's okay. You need some rest. You need to reassess who you are, how you fit into your life, what's important. You're surrounded by messages from your soul. You're surrounded by layers and levels of growth. You're surrounded by your ability to hold things together, because really, what do buttons do? Hold things together. And the key to this experience is in the buttons. The key is in holding yourself together as you experience the stripping away of the layers that have led to your misunderstanding of yourself and your journey. Card number 26, relax the hold of darkness and be at cause. This has a lot to do with something, someone swirling around you, feigning this light. They are the light in your life. You cannot let go, because if you do, you're going to be surrounded by darkness. Baby boo, you're made of the dark. You didn't just visit there. They're afraid you'll return to what you are, who you are, someone that's inaccessible to the manipulations. They may be light, but they're artificial light. That's a real thing. And you're like a garden. They've covered you and caged you up in a fence, taken you away from the light of your truth, your sun. And they've tricked you into believing these grow lights are actually the sun. I promise you they're not. You're going to have to uproot yourself and allow yourself to return back to your wild state. Something beautiful about the way wildflowers grow. No permission. They just grow. They grow in however way they see fit. You are that wildflower. You're made of that darkness. There's nothing wrong with you. There's truly nothing wrong with you. That darkness is a part of you, and it's a beautiful part. And if your environment says that darkness is something to be ashamed of hidden away, and no, that's not your environment. Those are not your people. That's not love. You have to be allowed to exist in your most natural state. Whether that's light or dark is irrelevant to me. I can hold space with you wherever you are. You don't have to just be in the light. I'm not afraid to join you in the dark. I'm a whole being composed of shadow and light. I have no fear of where I'm positioned within my life. Find the people who exist in the same way. They're not afraid of joining you in your shadow. They're not afraid of coaxing you out into the light for a little bit. They're not afraid of you being who you are, because who you are is exactly who they are too. Start finding those type of people. Start finding where you actually belong. I'm going to read you guys a little bit of poetry. I'm not going to shuffle it. I'm just going to pick something inside. Ooh, card number 17, the human gift. And then I got to go. I got to go. Let me just... All right. Card number 17, the human gift. Oh heart, what is your excuse for all these blunders? Such loyalty is offered by the beloved, yet so much treason comes from you. Such kindness is offered by the beloved, yet so much defiance and resistance comes from you. Such grace is offered by the beloved, yet so much fault and failure comes from you. Such attraction is offered by the beloved with sweetness and generosity, yet such jealousy comes from you with so much doubt and suspicion. Do you bemoan your lack of faith? Do you berate yourself, blazing angel, because you have moments where you cannot bring yourself to trust in love more than you trust in your fear? Do you lament and worry that you could or should be living in greater surrender? And yet, when is light more precious than when it arises from darkness? When is trust more admirable than when it involves an uncertain yet bold leap of faith? Human angel, your path is perfection in the divine sense, not in some artificial absence of struggle, but in the wrestling of darkness and light that ignites the fire within your holy heart. So rise up now from your doubts and admonishments and let your human self be loved. Even for all the doubt, you are still a cherished one of the great beloved and always shall be. Be kind to your heart. You may believe it to be weary from doubt and distrust, so much heartbreak and so many agonies, yet it still beats. Still it persists with unquestioning allegiance to life. What a grand heart it is, this sacred heart of yours. How can it be worthy of anything other than tenderness, gratitude, and acknowledgement and appreciation? Do not plague your heart with falsehoods and expectations of some disembodied perfection. The perfection of your heart is that it still loves. Even if you try to stop it with some notion of self protection from future hurt through doubt or fear, still it loves. It is perfection that hopes even after despair, that it holds compassion even after experiences of fear. So then, what is left? What is there left to do but breathe the grandest sigh of relief and allow yourself the essential luxury of peace within? So then, everything is all right. Even if at times, some moments it seems not to be, still your heart beats in honor of life. The heart can be nurtured and coaxed into gentle acceptance of all that is, and the divine sight will become available to you. Yes, sacred sight is what is behind this oracle for you now. You're meant to be witnessing something important, something that will make the presence of the divine in your affairs more real to you. It will be something you can come to count on at all times, and in that, gain greater peace in the realization that, yes, it is safe to trust and surrender. Indeed, it's only the safe, sane, sensible way to live. It's also the most fun way to live, and you're allowed to live this way if you so choose. It's not shirking your duty as a responsible adult. It's not deluding yourself and turning away from the real world. Rather, surrendering is placing responsibility where it's best placed, firmly in the hands of that part of you wise enough to know the great beloved is wiser still, and that your life unfolds according to the great beloved's grace. So for now, take comfort in this oracle. Just for a moment, let your heart be honored and loved by you, and imagine that you can crack open a window in the dustiest chamber of your own heart temple to let the light of the divine stream in. You may see the angel reaching to assist you. You may receive the gift of understanding, insight, and revelation. You may feel peace, or you may finally allow your heart to break once more, to shed those old grievances and be free and fresh to live in love again. Or you may quietly realize you're human. You are light and dark, of heaven and earth. What a perfect blend you are of all that can possibly be. You are an extraordinary living divine experiment in the making. And you are sacred, cherished, and loved by the great beloved. So do not fear your fear, but do doubt your doubt with compassion. Let it be and let it go. You are human after all, and your journey is beyond description. Just remember, if you're ever in need of the great beloved, there is a place where sacred tryst is always available to you, in the temple of your heart with a window cracked open so that doubt can fly out and love can breathe freely. This oracle comes with special guidance for you. You are or soon will be seeing with greater clarity and insight a situation that has been obscured to you in the past. You may be startled by what you perceive, so much so that you second guess yourself or chalk it up to wild imagination on your part. You're asked to trust in your perceptions that when they come from the heart, although what you perceive may be darkness, there will be no judgment in it. See what is truthfully there. Be in the compassionate nature of your heart, and you shall also be shown the most graceful way to become clear and free of darkness, either within yourself or within others in the world around you. So, I gotta get going. You have every component that you need. Trust in yourself, trust in your messages, trust in your ability to overcome what you thought you couldn't. The most beautiful thing about love is it does not stop because a relationship ends. It can either continue with that person as friends, or it can transmute and be gifted to another. The choice is always yours, what you want to do with it. But you have to first acknowledge it doesn't end. It never does. You're capable of loving beyond what you thought you could. I gotta go. Give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, please do subscribe. Turn on that notification bell. Join me when I'm live. Bye, guys.